What's the one thing we fear most? It's the government.
Welcome to the Weird Around Illinois podcast. Today, yes, we will talk about cryptids, we will talk about dogman and mothman and Bigfoot, but mostly we're going to talk about the scariest thing of all, the United States government and how it might relate to those cryptids. When we talk about cryptids and the government, you only need to look at YouTube to see the 1,000 different theories out there, and there are conspiracy theories everywhere about every cryptid somehow being related to the government. And it basically comes down to a couple central ideas. The first is that governments created some or all of these cryptids. The second is that the government is aware of some or all of these cryptids, and they're not sharing that they're aware. And the third is that the government is actively trying to keep people from finding out about these cryptids. First, let's start with the probability or possibility that the government is creating cryptids.
I've heard a lot of theories where the government basically creates dogman somehow.
Is some sort of a super soldier?
Yeah, like for the military.
It's the main one that we've talked about very briefly in one of our podcasts, but we never really got into it fully, I don't think.
Yeah, there have been a lot of YouTube videos on it. A lot of people have claimed to have seen dogman interacting with soldiers, like actually, going into battle with soldiers or training with soldiers. There are a lot of people who claim dogman and Bigfoot actually are spotted more frequently around military bases, especially the top secret military bases. I could see the logic of it. I could certainly see the need or the benefit of having a soldier who could run at 60 miles an hour, leap 15 feet in the air, and, rip someone apart without a weapon.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
Yeah. It's just, I do find it weird that there's also theories, like, where people have seen, like, the military, like, shooting down dogman.
Right. Yeah.
That kind of goes against this whole theory of the government creating them, because why would they create them? Oh, to shoot them down.
Right.
Could be.
And also I've heard of different branches of the government. Like if we assume this is a military thing, a policeman may not know it's a military thing, and if he sees a dogman, he's going to shoot it.
Right.
That's true.
I've heard like full-on helicopters and like
Right.
military style stuff.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing, and I think we've watched some of the same podcasts where either it's people in full military regalia with full combat helicopters coming in, or it's a Men in Black situation where like a black van shows up and these guys in these super high-tech spacesuits jump out firing, weapons that nobody's ever seen before at dogman. Obviously you can believe what you want to believe. Anybody can make a YouTube channel, so that we don't know where the facts are coming from. But the fact that these reports are out there make them worth at least discussing. We talk about dogman. It's the same thing with Bigfoot. I mean, I know I joked in one of the podcasts about the old TV show The $6 Million Man, how they said that he was an alien robot. Not $6 Million Man. They said that Bigfoot was an alien robot. Pretty progressive idea for like 1976 or 77. But nowadays you could make the argument that he could be a government robot. I mean,
The closer get.
yeah, exactly. The government. I don't see the value of them genetically creating a Sasquatch. I mean. But a mechanical one? Maybe.
I
don't see how or why.
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to the whole military thing we're talking about. I'm gonna go back to Bigfoot as well.
Mm-hmm.
There was a not Finding Bigfoot, but Expedition Bigfoot episode where they saw like helicopter.
Oh yeah.
And while they were looking for Bigfoot,
Yeah.
there were like 2 times where they saw those, I think. And I wonder if that's possibly the military.
it's possible. And what was interesting about that particular season is they had actually gone exploring on some land next to some land that the U.S. government had just purchased. And they were kind of throwing the theory out there that the government purchased that land because there was Bigfoot on that land.
They're trying to pin them down.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely some interesting stuff there in terms of the government creating a cryptid. I haven't heard it as much about Mothman. I haven't heard them say that, you know, the government was responsible for that creation, but they do talk a lot about the government knowing about Mothman and maybe trying to prevent people from finding out about Mothman. That's the same with the other cryptids too. Bigfoot is the one that gets discussed probably the most in that area. And, you know, for years I found myself thinking, okay, the government, if they know about Bigfoot, what possible reason could they have for not sharing that information with us? I mean, it's not like it's going to cause widespread panic in the streets to know that there's another type of primate out there. Then we were watching an episode of a Bigfoot show, and I wish I could remember which one it was. I don't. But they were in a logging area, and they started talking about Bigfoot as an endangered species. And they said, if the government acknowledges the existence of Bigfoot, they're going to have to shut down logging around here, just like they did for the spotted owl, because it'll become an endangered species, and there will be environmental protesters and PETA protesters out there saying that we can't be doing operations in this area because it could hurt Bigfoot's environment.
Wow, that would be very annoying.
Well, that was the first thing that rang true with me, because I usually when you have something that doesn't seem right, you follow the money. And there's a lot of money in logging, and a lot of that logging money goes back to politicians one way or another. So
That's true.
If they actually saw Bigfoot as a threat to the money they were making, I could totally see them, you know, not acknowledging his existence regardless of how much evidence is gathered. And with Dogman, I could kind of see the government not wanting to share info on Dogman because they don't want to cause a panic. But again, I you know, how different is Dogman than a big scary wolf or a cougar or something? I mean, it's something to be aware of when you're in the wilderness, but it's not like, you know, Dogman is roaming the streets, you know, looking to take you down when you're going to Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
Is the government not sharing information about these cryptids because they're actively trying to hide them? And, you know, what reason would they have to actively hide cryptids from us?
Yeah, you know. We've been watching the show Project Blue Book, and at the same time with UFOs, it seemed like they were going really out of their way to hide it.
Yeah.
It was something way bigger than like anybody expected.
And regardless of the exaggeration, the show is based on true stories.
Yeah, it's I forgot to mention that, but it is indeed based off a real story.
Yeah, I mean, if we take that show at face value, then we know that the government is not above hiding things from its people for its own purposes. But again, what are those purposes? Is it that there's something more sinister about these cryptids? I mean, is it that they're interdimensional creatures and they don't want people to know that there are other dimensions?
Yeah, was there some kind of treaty made saying that like you can't tell society or human society about them?
Right. And who's that treaty with? Is it with another dimension? Is it with aliens? Is it with other countries?
Yeah.
Who made this agreement? And you're probably right. There probably is an agreement in place somewhere saying, you know, we're not going to allow people to find out about these things. But yeah, I mean, I would have to say that the only fair reason for the government to do that is for our safety. So if there is some big military operation taking place involving other dimensions or involving aliens, and these cryptids are part of it, then I could understand the government keeping it from us.
Yeah, and another thought is another reason why they're keeping aliens from us, or UFOs in general, is because of the weaponry.
Right.
You know, the technology that people could steal if they see a UFO or somewhere. That's why they're trying so hard to hide all the stuff that's crashed, maybe just like, I don't know, some scenario.
Definitely. And if you remember that UFO show we were watching a few weeks ago, again, we've watched so many, I don't even remember the names anymore, but they were talking about this big UFO conspiracy that's taking place, and they were saying that when the first UFO crashed in like the early 1900s, the UFOs were actually asking, "Hey, do you want to be part of this great intergalactic society? Do you want to make friends with us? Can we negotiate with you?" And the U.S. government responded, "No thanks, but we'll take your technology." You know, there's a part of me that almost believes that. It's a shame that the world we live in, that we have such mistrust of our own government. But there's a part of me that just thinks that rings really, really true.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it does.
I think there has to be something there if any of these reports of government cover-ups and conspiracies are true. I mean, there has to be some sort of reason for them to do it. Otherwise, it's a lot of money and effort going into covering something up that doesn't need to be covered up.
Yeah, and it's possibly causing a lot of harm to people.
Yes.
Especially if they go, like, to the woods and they see a random dogman somewhere.
Yeah.
They could die from that.
Yeah.
From what I've heard.
Exactly. And, you know, all it would take is hey, by the way, dogman lives in this woods, so, you know, be sure not to go in there alone, and, you know, bring a can of bear spray with you.
That would cause some social media, like, chaos, though.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah, it would.
Which is another reason why the government might be fearing to release it, because it might absolutely break everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only for like a couple weeks, but
I would think that the deaths, though, would be more worrisome for them.
Yeah. And remember, at least the Bigfoot and Mothman sightings were way before social media. They had plenty of opportunity to let this go without breaking the internet.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's certainly something to ponder. And believe me, every time we run into a dark SUV when we're on one of our expeditions, or see an unexplained dark helicopter fly over, it makes me wonder. And maybe it's because I'm paying attention to it more now, but I don't know about you guys, but I've been seeing a lot more of it since we've started this.
Yeah.
I've been a little creeped out sometimes.
Yeah.
But maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just paranoia. Maybe paranoia is part of being a cryptid investigator.
Maybe.
But at any rate, we're going to be wary of both cryptids and our government. We really appreciate you following us and liking our videos and subscribing and telling your friends. And we hope you'll stick with us on this long and apparently perilous journey. Thanks for listening.